back. This is not just a podcast for white dudes with beards. It is a podcast for people who want to talk about traveling internationally and want to listen to a guy sitting on a patio looking into the Mediterranean Sea. It's about, 3:35 a.m. on Thursday, I believe it is. I do believe it is Thursday. It is 12:35 where I am, which is in Sitges, Spain. This is day number 2 for us in Sitges. We will leave here tomorrow. We will head down the coast to a little place called La Rapita, which is where my wife will be on her horseback riding excursion for a few days, and then we're off to Valencia. But if you missed us yesterday on Section 1904, I am traveling internationally, and I traveled with a microphone and a podcast recording device called PodTrack 4 and a laptop and a microphone. And here I sit watching the airplanes flying into Barcelona International Airport, watching people enjoy themselves. Lots of activity here in Sitges today. This is a wonderful, wonderful little place. I don't know how little it is, actually. I don't mean to say it like that. It's not some tiny little beach community. It's bigger than I was expecting. Lots of people that are out and about and walking around. The weather's a little tricky here today. Lots of people wearing shorts. There are some people longer pants, sweatshirts, literally looking down at hundreds and hundreds of people walking back and forth right here on the Mediterranean. As mentioned yesterday, people are out there. I never got an answer about whether they're parasailing or kite surfing or whatever the activity is. It looks like a ton of fun. I wish I was motivated to learn how to do that. I see people doing that in San Diego Bay all the time, but haven't yet brought myself to it. Do enjoy a good paddleboard, which I'll be doing over the next couple of days, but looks like a ton of fun. A bit of a breezy day. The sun is popping in and out here in Sitges, which is just, like I said, it is a great, great place. Part of what I love about this part of Spain so much, Barcelona, Sitges, is it's similar to San Diego, for those that haven't been here, in the sense that you have this body of water. For us, obviously, it's the Pacific Ocean. Here, it's the Mediterranean. So you have the ocean, and then the beach, and then you have a little bit of a city structure, like where we are here with Sitges, with Barcelona, and then, boom, there are the mountains. It reminds me of San Diego, reminds me of Santa Barbara, has a bit of that, where Leigha and I got married in Puerto Vallarta. There's that sense as well, where you have the water, the beach, the city, and the mountains. With San Diego, the mountains are a little bit further back, obviously, but here it's phenomenal. The food, the people, everything about it. And Sitges, I posted a picture on Blue Sky in case people are wondering. I posted a picture on Blue Sky of a souvenir shop, and cover the kids' ears here. The souvenirs were all dildos. I don't even think they were dildos because they're not functional. They're like beer openers. I mean, I guess in order to be a dildo, it has to be functional. I don't know, but they all were phallic, and Sitges is known for being a beach city, a beach community, great food, great destination. People that want to be 30 minutes outside of Barcelona, but not necessarily in the city, in the grind. Also very LGBTQ friendly. So, there's a lot of that element. If you've ever spent any time in Hillcrest or any, LGBTQ community, sometimes you come across some interesting T-shirts and some interesting souvenir. So, anyhow, just to follow up for those that were following on Blue Sky, wondering why I was posting random pictures of phallic souvenirs. What a match. I'm literally like sitting here today. We slept in a little, as you would imagine. There's some late nights. Spain is known for its late night activities, and certainly we participated in that with our friends Ruben and Nadia. I think we ended up getting back to the hotel at what time? Like 3 o'clock? 3:30? Somewhere in that range, which is really not all that uncommon. You think 3 o'clock, 3:30, wow, anybody out at that time of the night? Yeah, like there were lots of people that were out. We went to their hotel, which is right in the, it's about a half a mile walk from Montjuic, the stadium, the Olympic Stadium where FC Barcelona is playing, which is not their permanent home. I had people ask about that, about the size of the stadium. It's like 52,000, I think they called it 50,000 people last night. at the Olympic Stadium. This is their temporary stadium, while their actual stadium, Camp Nou, is being remodeled. So that was expected to be open, but, delays, right? We know a thing or two about delays. So it's good to know that it's not just San Diego that has to deal with construction delays, that we're experiencing that a little bit. And when this trip was planned, because we were planning to go to the Barcelona-Real Madrid match on May 11th. So the good news is we get to do this all over again, coming up in a couple of weekends when we get back into Barcelona for another match that is going to be incredible and emotional and colorful and off the charts and all of it. Montjuic, it was my first time in there. And we didn't expect that we would be going to games there. We were actually hoping that the games would be played at Camp Nou, but it's not even close to completion. When we booked the trip, that was the idea. So, unfortunately, it didn't happen, and it didn't take too much away, I didn't think, from the experience. I mean, it's a different... The best comparison I heard for Montjuic, I asked a friend of mine who had been there. As a matter of fact, it is Vicky Mercado, who works with SDFC. She came to Spain a few months back before SDFC went into its preseason. And I asked her, I said, so what's the stadium like? It's old, right? It's the Olympic Stadium. The Olympics were here in 1992. It's got a little bit of an older exterior, et cetera. And she said it's like going to the Rose Bowl. So anybody who's ever been to the Rose Bowl, the concourses, maybe not the widest concourses, the facilities, the restrooms, they've been around for a minute. So, it had that vibe. I had that in my mind, and that was a good comp from Vicky. As for the match itself, 3-3, 3-3 is just kind of bonkers. It's just it's a crazy, crazy night. I'm loving all the comments that I'm getting from people who watch this match, either in San Diego or wherever. But, when I posted a couple of pictures either on Instagram or on Twitter or on Blue Sky, it was like, oh, what a crazy match. Even friends of mine were texting, what a crazy match. I can't believe you were there for that. Gosh, that was amazing. That was fucking crazy. So like, and you're there, you do understand, like, you appreciate how crazy it is. Barca falls behind in the first minute. And everybody, I don't mean to make this sound like it's not like I'm knocking baseball, but it's not baseball. Like, everybody's in their seats by the time the game starts for a soccer match. It's not like baseball where people kind of casually dip in the first inning or the second inning or the third inning. Everybody's in their seats, so everybody's there to see the first goal scored. In the first minute of the game, Inter Milan scores. You're like, oh, well, that didn't go the way we thought. And, then they take a 2-0 lead a little later on. You're like, what is happening here? And then Barca gets back into it, and wow, it's 2-2 at halftime, and you feel like, well, okay, we're in for an all-timer here tonight, aren't we? And then a couple of more goals scored in the second half, 3-3, and they'll do it again next week in Milan. For those that don't follow, you play two legs. So, the first leg was here it was here in Spain, in Barcelona, and the second leg will be at the San Siro in Milan next week. But as of now, the 3-3 just is, it's just, you're on level ground. You're just on level ground, and then the winner will advance on aggregate score. So that it was 3-3 really means that, that you're starting at 0 again. Away goals used to matter. They used to be weighted. They're no longer weighted, thank God, if you're a Barcelona fan, because that would have been tough. But they'll do it again on Tuesday. We'll be in Valencia. I did kind of toss it out there that, it would be a short flight to Milan. And my wife said, well, there's lots of shopping in Milan. And I think she indicated that I would have to perhaps put my credit card down if, in fact, I was going to think about making that happen. But we're not going to go. We're going to watch it. We have a place to watch it in Valencia, so should be a ton of fun. The thing about the stadium that, and I think to see everybody who sent me texts or sent me messages talking about how crazy the game was, and you're like, yeah, it was. I know, like, it was cool. It was, but inside of the stadium, there's no video boards, right? So, like, the only video board, we were sitting on the south side, the end zone on the south side, and right above us was the away section, all the Inter Milan fans, and they were making so much noise. Oh my God, they were having a party, and they were held into the away section by plexiglass. So think like at a hockey match, anybody that's been to a Gulls game or been to an NHL game, you have all of this plexiglass that is literally confining the away fans. I don't know, a couple thousand Inter Milan fans, and they were slamming these boards right over our head. It had this incredible atmosphere, and all the Barca fans would turn around and flip them off and be like, hey, fuck you. And then the Inter Milan fans were looking down, and they were taking their index finger and their thumb, and they were holding them this close apart, right? Like as to indicate that you people have a bunch of small wieners, right? So like, it was just this great night of banter going back and forth. And just like, I'll never forget the sound of the Inter Milan fans slamming the plexiglass. I mean, just dozens of them slamming the plexiglass every time something good would happen for Inter Milan. But there's no video boards there, so you don't get to see any of these replays. You know, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know, I don't know. I mean, lots of people go to Padre games, and there's this sort of sensory experience, maybe some sensory overload of stand up, get loud, make noise, right? And they have the noisometer or whatever it's called. And you know, I mean, people seem to like that. I mean, we go to some Padre games, and people seem to like that. People seem to like the energy of an NBA basketball game. But here, there's none of that. It's not like stand up, make noise, do all that sort of shit. You know, people just do it. And again, I don't know. Is that better? I guess to each their own. But it was just different from that standpoint. You know, that whether you're at Snapdragon Stadium, right? I've been there a ton this year for SDFC games, and they'll put different people up on the board, and they'll give you different messages up on there on the board. And, you know, like, you don't get any of that. You know, you don't get any of that. Maybe that's just because it's Montjuic and you know, it's their temporary stadium, so they're not going to invest in the LED ribbons or whatever. But you just, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's something to be said for it. Leigha has actually come out here. Did you like that part of the game? Did you? Come on, don't be shy. Come over here. Did you like that part of it, not having any video boards?
I did. I think it made you more engaged in the match and the atmosphere when you aren't watching the clock and looking at the replays. I really enjoyed it.
Because, like, you're not a classic sports fan where you know, you might be, that might be part of the appeal for you, is going to a sporting event and having these things to potentially entertain you, right? Like, if we go to a baseball game, if we go to an NBA game, or if we go to Snapdragon Stadium, that is part of the entertainment, I think, part of the appeal for a lot of sports fans who may be on the more casual side of sports. I don't know, but this was different.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, and you know me, I'm not a huge sports fan. I'm all about the atmosphere and having fun and being entertained, and so I really think that it's very enjoyable.
It was organic.
Yes, absolutely. And the crowd is insane. You can't help but get excited and cheer and jump up and down and sing, and I'm still humming la, 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 this morning in my head, so it's great.
What did you think? Were you worried about the Inter Milan fans, that they were going to come tumbling down on top of us from up above?
That was insane. It was so loud. It made me kind of flinch a few times. You're like, oh my God, what happens if they actually break through that plexiglass?
They did not, though. Thankfully, they did not. And the banter back and forth, did I describe it right?
Yes, you definitely described that perfectly. Little wieners definitely seemed to be the theme.
People probably also want to follow up on what our situation is with the nude beach here today.
Oh, yes. Well, the sun is coming out, and we are getting our bathing suits on and going to explore the nude beach today.
We haven't ruled anything out.
Correct. We have not also committed to anything.
We're going to play it by ear.
Yes, playing it by ear today.
Was it what kind of experience was it for you yesterday, walking past the nude beach and seeing the people who were nude?
I will say I would like to have seen a little younger demographic that was nude. There was a lot of wrinkly things to be seen and not as many sexy, hot Spanish people. This is a gorgeous country, so I think we're going to try and take that age range down today.
Yeah, we'll try to work on the curve, so to speak. Yes. We're having a good time?
Absolutely. Love it here. I like this new gig, too. I think coffee's on the patio with a portable podcast is a great career change for me. And
Sitges, just an amazing place.
Such a great city. I love how close we are to Barcelona. It actually reminds me a little bit of Imperial Beach. We're 25 minutes to the action, but we're right on the water with a gorgeous view, lots of activity. And if you want to go get crazy in Barca, you're right there.
Yeah, I mean, the train is phenomenal. We took the train into the city yesterday, and it's about 25 minutes or so, and it drops you right off at the main train station, which is a short walk to Montjuic, to the stadium, and where our friends Ruben and Nadia are staying, and where they're relocating, where they're moving, actually. They're moving in today. literally on Thursday. They're moving into their new place. But the train, it's kind of like the train when you take it from downtown up to North County or North County to downtown, where there's those stretches where you're in Del Mar, where you're in Oceanside, right, where you're right on the ocean and it feels like you're running parallel to the Pacific Ocean. It's the same thing here, but it's the Mediterranean. So it's the same kind of situation. You're like, wow, this is just a beautiful, beautiful 25, 30-minute ride into town. And then we took an Uber back home, which, was a little, I don't know, $50, I guess. $50-$60 is about what you would expect to pay for, $25 anywhere in San Diego. So not all that dissimilar from that experience. But are you excited to? I know we have a long trip here, but at first you weren't so sure about going to 2 different soccer matches. Now that we went to a Champions League match, are you excited? We're excited for everything coming up, but May 11th against Real Madrid, are you now looking forward to that? Maybe a little bit more than you were when you're like, I don't know. 2 soccer matches feels like a lot.
2 soccer matches did feel like a lot, but since I get 3 days of horseback riding, I absolutely wasn't about to argue. I think it's 2 very different atmospheres. Last night was just a different vibe, and I know in a couple weekends it'll be even better when we've got all of our friends here and the fan. And as I said earlier, it's all about entertainment, and I really enjoy that connection that you get with our Peña people and all of the fans here in Barcelona.
I'm sure somebody wants to question about wine or cava while we're here. Since you were in the wine business, for those that do not know.
Can I just say I love coming to Spain and not having to ask for a 5-page wine list to figure out what the heck to order. I know I can get an amazing bottle of cava for about €14, and being able to drink it outside the stadium is absolutely unbelievable. The quality here and the value of the Spanish wines is just unbeatable, and I am so excited for more drinking today.
Yes. We do have a full day here. Once we're done with this podcast, we're going to send it off to John so he can wake up and he can edit it and make it available. I know he had a guest lined up. I don't want to promote just in case the guest falls through. But John did go to the Padre game yesterday. The Padres swept the Giants. So I'm sure John will have more from firsthand experience being at Petco Park and talking about that. But as I said, it's not just a podcast for white dudes with beards who may or may not be dealing with an inner crisis as to whether or not they should be wearing jeans at their age. But it's also an international travel podcast, which is super exciting as well. Where is our sun going? It is dipping in and out here. It's playing some tricks on us, isn't it?
It's going to make the nude beach interesting.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, I'm ready for wine.
Ready for wine. All right. Well, we're approaching 1 o'clock, so it's an appropriate sort of situation here. But yeah, I mean, you can tell, like watching Lamine Yamal in person. I don't have anything to compare it to other than the first time that we were here and we saw Messi play. Now Leigha loves Rafinha, so like watching Rafinha score for her was, I mean, that'll work out well for me. But she loves watching Rafinha. And for me, watching Lamine Yamal, I just read an amazing quote from the Inter Milan manager about Lamine Yamal, which I thought was just so... the manager said, he is a player I've not seen live before. This is a 17-year-old, by the way. 17 years old, Lamine Yamal. This is the Inter Milan manager. He's a player I've not seen live before. We had the double up on him. We managed it better in the second half, could even have won. Yamal is a phenomenon, born every 50 years. We made some adjustments to improve how to deal with him after the break, which is not easy. He really impressed me today. And I'm as impressed as anybody, not because he's 17, but just because of everything that he's doing for Barcelona and for Spain. So to see one of the world's great soccer talents live, to me, it's just an amazing experience. No matter who it is or what team they play for, when you get to see one of the world's best at anything, right? Which is why we're so lucky when we watch, Tatis or, there is that piece of you. It's like, yeah, that's incredible. So to see him live for the first time, I thought was amazing. And then to see that kind of praise from the Inter Milan manager makes a ton of sense. So, yeah, we'll watch it again. The replay coming up, not the replay, but the second leg coming up Tuesday of next week. I'm glad the Padres swept the Giants. I know that's a nice deodorant for the stinky weekend that the Padres had, especially when you get to say, yeah, screw you, Bob Melvin. That always makes people feel good around San Diego. So John went to the game. He posted some pictures, and I'm sure he'll have some more on that here on Section 1904. And as said, I think he had a guest lined up, but I haven't checked with him. And since it's just approaching 4 in the morning, I'm not going to bother him and make sure that it is something that is still in play. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Before I left, I did record the SDFC Midweek Live show. So if you missed it with Adrian Garcia Marquez and Warren Barton, you can find that on the iHeartRadio app. So I do want to be a good team player and promote that. John, I have a question for you since you'll be listening to this. The Lakers lost and got eliminated from the playoffs last night. My wife just curled her nose at that because the company she works for, Kendall Jackson, is the official wine partner of the NBA, and having the Lakers involved in the postseason is probably good for business. But it's okay. There's still lots of teams alive. But the Lakers lost. I don't know how Nico Harrison feels today. He's the GM of the Mavericks. But maybe John can spend a couple of minutes on that because I'm truly curious how conflicted. I mean, I don't like the Lakers at all, so I don't care. But it's probably good for business that the Lakers at least, make it out of the first round. But they did not. So we'll just have to. I love watching the Timberwolves play. I'm sorry. I know the Timberwolves. I'm paying close attention to them as a Knicks fan because of the trade for Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle. So there's a chance that could backfire. But I love watching Anthony Edwards play. I mean, I just love watching that guy play. I was just talking about Lamine Yamal. Not exactly the same thing, but but still a special player who I'd turn on a television to watch Anthony Edwards play basketball. The same way I think even non-Barcelona fans would turn on a television to watch Lamine Yamal play soccer. I think I have that right. So anyhow, John will have much more on that. As I guess I'll just call it a day here from the third floor, our third floor deck, looking into the Mediterranean. Again, we've got the planes that are flying into Barcelona. I don't know that are we in vacation mode? Or are we activated yet? Or are we still, you were doing a little bit of work earlier today. My wife posted a hilarious picture on Instagram. And don't follow her on Instagram because I've told her not to accept any of you. But she posted a picture of herself popping a bottle of cava and me podcasting. And she's like, yep, working on the 2025 tax write-offs. Trips a whole tax write-off for us. So, got to have a good accountant in life, everybody. Section 1904, subscribe. We appreciate it. Again, this is a ton of fun. I just love this place. I do. I love it so much.
Not coming home.
Nah, we're going to come home. We can't let Caesar just live in our house forever. Or can we? I don't know. But someday, this place, Leigha said it earlier, it just has a little IB feel. And it's what we want IB to be, right? Will Holder, this is what we want IB to be when you have these beachfront restaurants and bars and everybody's out and about and exercising. And this is the potential of Imperial Beach for sure, to have a little bit of a mature, a little bit more of a mature citizenry. I don't know. Lots of people enjoying and just living life. And it's great. So we'll call that a Thursday here from Sitges and John. It's all you.
All right. I wanted to give Darren and Leigha center stage today, so I wanted to put what they sent me first. Sounds like they're having a wonderful time. There was lots of nude beach talk, wiener talk, dildo talk, a little bit of wine talk. Sounds like they're having a hell of a vacation. And I'm going to be honest, I very much enjoy waking up and having these podcasts waiting for me to listen to first thing in the morning. Does make me a little bit jealous, but that's okay. For anyone who doesn't know who I am, Darren just said John. I am John Gennaro. I am Darren's co-host on this thing, if you haven't been around this whole time. And Darren and I are building a media company, brick by friggin' brick, at section1904.com. As Darren mentioned, yesterday I did go to the San Diego Padres day baseball game against the San Francisco Giants. I do have some thoughts about it. I don't know how many people are going to like my thoughts, but I have thoughts about it. Before I do that, I just want to shout out Mason and I believe Joe. You'll forgive me if I got those names wrong in any way, shape, or form. I did have a couple of beverages before and during the game that would make those things more difficult to remember, and I also have a terrible memory. I met up with them. They sent me, I guess Mason sent me a message on the Section 1904 Discord through a DM, said, hey, if you're at the game, I'm at the game, let's meet up. We met up, we chatted for a little while. He told me why he supports Section 1904, why he has signed up as a paid subscriber, what he likes about it. And then we together kind of convinced Joe to sign up as well, which I heard he did as soon as he got back to his seat. So shout out to new paid subscriber Joe and Mason, who I think signed up just a few days ago. As a matter of fact, you guys are awesome. Also awesome, the San Diego Padres. Yesterday's podcast, I was like, I don't know that I've ever seen a situation where, the starter gets a win and every reliever either gets a hold or a save, as if it was a rare thing. I still don't know. But if it is, it's incredible that the Padres have done it 2 games in a row. I'm just going to assume that I was focused on something that I just had never noticed before, but is probably pretty regular. Because in yesterday's game, Michael King gets the win. Jeremiah Estrada gets a hold. Adrian Morejon gets a hold. Jason Adam gets a hold. Robert Suarez gets a save in a 5-3 afternoon win over the San Francisco Giants that, I'm just going to tell you, from being there, didn't feel that close. It really didn't. And maybe it's because the Padres at one point had a 5-1 lead. And it felt like after that, they were just kind of protecting it. The soccer term would be parking the bus. But they were just kind of protecting it. So even when Estrada gave up a home run, even when Adam gave up a home run, it was like, oh, we got a lot of space here. Like you had to bring in Suarez. You had to bring in the closer to get his save. But it still never really felt dangerous. Never really felt like the Giants were going to get back into it. And part of the reason was the Giants' offense, at least in these 2 games, was the opposite of what we saw from the Padres' offense, which after, a week or so of looking like one of the worst offenses in baseball, and actually statistically being one of the worst offenses in baseball, the Padres looked like the early season Padres again. I read an article from Kevin Acee, who essentially gave a lot of credit to Luis Arias. I know Manny Machado was quoted as saying it feels like we're ourselves again. I want to focus in on just a couple players real quick. The pitching was great. Michael King's great. He now has an ERA of 2.09. He was great. As typically goes with him, he threw a ridiculous pitch that ended up on Pitching Ninja. I think there was one pitch that he hit somebody because it just had so much break on it. Michael King is still kind of struggling to control his pitches because of how much break they all have. Good problems to have. Blake Snell-like problems to have. I'm not predicting a Cy Young or 2 in Michael King's future, but at this point, if he's going to keep pitching like this, it's certainly in the realm of possibility. So, great performance by Michael King. Bullpen was nails as always. Luis Arias, 2 hits in 4 at-bats, got an RBI, scored a run. Manny Machado got a hit, struck out twice, but did get an RBI. Gavin Sheets walked twice. That was good. We're going to sit here on 2 different players, and then I want to come back around to Tatis and Arias. First, Xander Bogaerts. I'm not bragging. I'm not whatever. I said on yesterday's podcast that when he had his good game, it reminded me of when Eric Hosmer would occasionally have a good game, kind of run into one, and everyone would be like, oh, this is it. Hosmer's waking up. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I could see it being a little bit of a letdown after that, because Xander was like, just let me get a homer. Just let me get a homer. And he finally gets one. And today he's like, okay, finally. And he's not pushing hard, but the guy struck out twice. He went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He never really made good contact that I saw. At least one of those strikeouts was like a 1-2-3. He never saw a ball, or at least he never saw a ball that he didn't swing at. So a bad game from Xander Bogaerts at the plate. And, I hope that Xander comes out of this. I hope he looks like the Boston Red Sox Xander. I hope that doesn't end up being one of the worst contracts in the history of Major League Baseball. But I'm keeping an eye on it just because he had one good game on Tuesday. I'm not saying he's fixed, and he looked pretty bad on Wednesday. I still don't really understand why. I should probably make it a project to myself to dig through the StatCast to try and figure out why, but he's just bad right now. Luis Arias, future free agent in this upcoming offseason. Luis Arias, really, showed off his value. Like, he has proven himself to be the best defensive first baseman on the team by a lot. The offense really struggled without him and has come back to life with him back in the lineup. And there's something about Tatis, Arise, Machado in the first inning that just seems to get the offense going. This is why, before that stretch without everyone where the offense was bad, the Padres were scoring a lot of runs in the first inning, which is not a thing that has been typical of them in years past. And we all attributed it to, Tatis leading off. And that's part of it. Tatis is playing great. And he bounced back yesterday. He went 3 for 4, scored a run. I think all 3 of those hits were singles. 2, if not all 3 of them, were like literally ground balls that made their way through the infield. So Tatis stopped swinging for the fences, started, figuring out what he could do with the pitches that were being thrown to him. That was a great thing to see. Arise, that's what Arise does. He doesn't really come into it with a plan. He waits to see what the pitcher's trying to do, and then he takes whatever the pitcher's given him, and he gets contact, and a lot of times that ends up with him on base. And then, then there's action. Then there's action in front of Machado. There's action in front of Sheets. There's action in front of Bogarts, should that matter at some point. I liked what I saw from Tatis, and Arise is just, if he's not talking to the Padres in the next couple weeks about a contract extension to avoid free agency, I'd be kind of surprised, because at this point he's proving himself to be one of the more important guys on this team. And if their identity, as it was last year and as it was earlier this year, is going to continue to be, we make a lot of contact, we create a lot of action, you kind of need a Luis Arise in there to make sure that that's what's happening. Because when things get bad for Tatis, he starts swinging for the fences. When things get bad for Machado, he can get into a real slump. Gavin Sheets, we saw he was trying to do too much before yesterday, and he kind of got himself into a little bit of a slump. Bogarts, you don't know what you're getting. Arise, you always know what you're getting. And I'm not saying like he doesn't slump. He started the season really poorly. But he's always going to make contact. And when he started the season poorly, he wasn't striking out. He wasn't swinging for the fences. He was just kind of making contact that was ending up, being caught. So I think there's something to Arise being kind of like the lifeblood to the identity of this Padres team. And I like that. I've always been an Arise guy. Something about, growing up watching Tony Gwynn just makes you predisposed to liking a guy like that, especially in 2025 when there's not a lot of them. And I like Arise. I like watching him succeed. And when he succeeds, usually the team kind of follows along with him. He had a triple yesterday. Shout out Luis Arise. So good win for the Padres. Good 2-game sweep. Off day for the Padres today. And then they travel to New York to play the Yankees, I believe. Nope. They travel to Pittsburgh first to play the Pirates. So they will play the Pirates in Pittsburgh tomorrow. That's a 3:40 Pacific start. So hopefully you can, listen on the car ride home from work, or maybe listen while you're at work or whatever. And that'll be over pretty early. So you'll have plenty of time to watch the NBA playoffs after those games on the East Coast, or at least in Eastern time, are done. I want to, I guess, just talk a little bit about the feeling at the ballpark yesterday. It did feel a little bit different. It wasn't a sellout. I did go talk to Bobby Cressy, who plays the organ during the day games, and he was saying, like, man, this is the first not sellout I can remember this year. There was actually a couple of empty seats, but it was still mostly full, a loud, engaged crowd. I mean, I have complained for years that the Padres do so much to try and entertain the children that are in the stands that a lot of times the adults just end up watching the video board instead of the game. I felt like it was a very engaged crowd yesterday. They were paying attention to what was happening. They were responding. So I don't know, not saying best fans in baseball, but they might be making their way there. All right, Darren asked me a question. Darren asked me a question about the LA Lakers, who lost last night to the Minnesota Timberwolves and now go home. LeBron James is doing his typical thing. I don't know if I'm going to retire. I have to go talk to my family about it. We'll see. Let's tackle that one first. I tend to think that if LeBron James is going to retire, he's going to do it in the biggest, loudest way possible. This has just kind of been his MO throughout his career, and it's not like I'm not blaming him for it. This is a kid who was on Sports Illustrated when he was like 16, 17 years old. This is a kid who, his high school basketball games were on ESPN national TV broadcasts. So this is a guy who has had attention for a lot of his life, and he feeds off that. He likes the attention. There's nothing wrong with liking attention. I'm talking in front of a microphone, then I'm going to send it out to people who, listen to it and pay attention to me. There's nothing wrong with wanting some attention. It's not for everyone, but there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think LeBron's just going to walk away out the back door. I think when LeBron is ready to retire, we're going to know pretty well in advance. I think he's going to want the little retirement tour. I know they've talked to him about it before, and he's kind of hemmed and hawed and said, I don't know if that's really for me. I think it is. And I also think when the Lakers traded for Luka Doncic, I think that greatly increased the odds of LeBron James coming back next season, because I think he can see that the reason the Lakers lost to the Timberwolves is not because Luka's not good enough, and it's not because LeBron's not good enough, and it's not because Austin Reeves is not good enough. It was a pretty simple equation. The Lakers didn't have enough depth, and the Lakers didn't have enough size. Rudy Gobert scored 27 points on them. Rudy Gobert, who can barely score on an NBA floor, scored 27 points, and I think had 21 or 22 rebounds to go along with it, which shows you that they had no one that can challenge Rudy Gobert, who I think is like 7'2", 7'3". Like, he's a big guy. The Lakers do have Jackson Hayes, who's technically a 7-footer, but he's just a lot skinnier than Rudy. I'm sure Rudy would just push him around and box him out anyway. So the Lakers tried some things, but at the end, it didn't work. And like the two biggest stories of the Lakers season are both centered around trades. Obviously, getting Luka Doncic and trading away Anthony Davis is number one story. But number two, and this kind of slid under the radar for a lot of people, the Lakers made a trade at the trade deadline with the Charlotte Hornets for a center named Mark Williams. Mark Williams, when he plays, is an incredible player. I mean, just flies above the rim. He's a great dunker. He defends the rim on the other side of the floor. And he's perfect to match with Luka Doncic. Like, when Luka came alive with the Dallas Mavericks, it's because they got him these like rim-running centers who could also defend the rim on the other side. That's what Mark Williams is. And the Lakers traded for Mark Williams right before the end of the trade deadline. They actually sent out their first-round pick, who was at the time getting some Rookie of the Year noise around him, named Dalton Connect. And then like 2 or 3 days later, the Lakers got a look at Mark Williams, or I guess the Lakers doctors got a look at Mark Williams, and they were like, I see why this guy's never playing. I see why he's never active. I see why he's never healthy. And I think they just made a determination, whether it was his back or something else, was never going to be healthy enough for him to be a consistent player on the Lakers. And the Lakers did a thing that I didn't even know they were able to do, but makes some sense, in which they returned Mark Williams to the Hornets. And they were like, sorry, this guy's broken. We would like our players back. And it actually really derailed the season for Dalton Connect, which is part of this, because like the Lakers really had no depth. There was a game, I think it was game 4 of this series, where JJ Redick played the same 5 guys for the entire second half. The same 5 guys for the entire second half in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I mean, that's a thing that you save for game 6 and on of the NBA finals. Maybe game 4 and on of the NBA finals. You don't do it in game 4 of the first round. It's insane. It's a Hail Mary, and it didn't even work. Timberwolves won the game anyway. So the Lakers, when they sent back Mark Williams, who they traded for after they traded away Anthony Davis, because they were like, we desperately need a center. When they traded him back to the Hornets, the trade deadline was over. They couldn't go get another center. And there was none just, walking on the street, waiting for the Lakers to call so they can join the team. So the Lakers have essentially been playing without a starting caliber center since the NBA trade deadline, since they traded away Anthony Davis, honestly. And everyone knew that would come back to bite them, and it did. I heard someone, and I don't know who it was probably on one of the Ringer podcasts, whether it's Zach Lowe or Bill Simmons or group chat or whatever, that said the Lakers roster this year was built around Anthony Davis and LeBron. And that team doesn't work the same, doesn't work as well, doesn't function the way you want it to, doesn't remove all weaknesses and prop up the strengths of a team that is centered around Luka Doncic and LeBron James. So they're going to have to do some things in the offseason, including getting a starting caliber center to add to this team. But they went on a run anyway. They went on a run anyway after the trade deadline because Luka's that good, LeBron's that good, and honestly, JJ Redick, he's probably going to get some Coach of the Year votes in his first year of coaching. Not his first year as an NBA head coach, his first year of coaching. I don't think he's ever coached at any level before this year, and he did a great job with that team. He did everything he could with that team. Like I said, he got a little crazy at the end there, but he did everything that he could. And I think LeBron knows that next year, and look, Rob Pelinka has kind of proven himself. I thought it was a joke when the Lakers were like, Rob Pelinka, former agent, is our GM a few years back. Rob Pelinka has proven himself to be a really good general manager. And I think LeBron is going to look at Luka. He's going to look at Bronny, who's still on the team. He's going to look at Rob Pelinka, and he's going to say, we're going to have enough next year to compete. They just got to shuffle some parts around. It has to go from being an Anthony Davis team to being a Luka Doncic team. And that's a different kind of team. Luka Doncic needs a rim-running, rim-defending center. Anthony Davis does not, for somewhat obvious reasons. So I still think the Lakers are going to be dangerous next year. I think LeBron's going to be there next year. We can move on from that. I did love to hear Darren talk about how much he loves Anthony Edwards, though, because that guy, give him all the flowers. Like, he just knocked out Luka and LeBron. Last year, he knocked out Kevin Durant. Like, he's starting to build a list of NBA superstars that he has knocked out of the NBA playoffs because he's unafraid of them, and he meets the moment almost every single time. He's a great quote. He's probably the future face of the league. He's the guy that the NBA wanted Zion to be or Ja Morant to be, and they weren't. And actually, my buddy Vinny Goodwill met up with Anthony Edwards, I think at the All-Star game, and said as much. He said, you're going to be the face of the NBA going forward. And Anthony said, I don't want that. I just want to win. Like, that's all he cares about is winning. And it shows. And he's awesome. I will give my Luka Mavericks take here, and then I will let you guys go. I know yesterday's podcast was a little bit on the shorter side. This one probably will be as well. I am expecting to talk to a guest around 1 o'clock. So assuming that one goes, 30 minutes or so, you'll probably get another podcast from Section 1904 sometime this afternoon. That'll just be me and a guest, no Darren. But I didn't want to make you guys wait for Darren's piece or my take on the Padres game, especially during an off day, or the Lakers or Luka, anything like that. So we're putting this one out now. There'll likely be another one later this afternoon. You're welcome / I'm sorry. The funny thing about watching Luka on the Lakers is I've always really disliked the Lakers. And that hasn't really changed. Although I do like Luka and I liked rooting for Luka. But rooting for Luka, as much as it has its highs, and look, he took the Mavericks to the finals last year. That was one of the more fun, enjoyable playoff runs of my life last year. But he can also be really terrible to root for at times. There are times where you look at him and you're just like, man, get in shape. Stop bitching at the refs constantly. Get your head in the game. Like, Luka doesn't always meet the moment. Sometimes the moment eats him up. And I've actually heard from people around the NBA and people who work in the NBA that a lot of teams, especially in the playoffs, feel like over the course of a season, over the course of a series, they can get into Luka's head. They can. And, sometimes that's a bad thing. You can light him on fire and he can rain down hell on you on the offensive end. Or maybe you fire him up enough that he even tries on defense a little bit. but sometimes he just gets lost and he gets distracted and he gets focused on the wrong things. And if he was a superior athlete, I could see him having room to do both, focusing on his grudges and making the smart play. But he's not, I don't want to say he's not a superior athlete. He's a superior athlete, but it's obvious when you watch him that A, he's not completely healthy. He's like never completely healthy. And B, you can tell that he's just a little paunchy, right? Like you can tell that if he wanted to drop 30 pounds this offseason, he could. He could show up ripped 30 pounds lighter, and it would probably take a lot of the strain off of his ankles, off of his knees, off of his calves. Like, Darren asked how Nico Harrison, the GM of the Mavericks, feels today. And I would tell you that Nico Harrison probably feels really good because he's an idiot. All the stuff that I said about the Lakers and their roster and everything, that's not anyone's fault. They did that knowing they were getting the next 10 years of Luka Doncic's career, and that's smart. The big reason Nico Harrison got rid of Luka is Luka's lower body over the last couple of years has just been falling apart over and over again. Through the playoffs last year, every single game, his knees would start bleeding. I don't know how bad your knees need to be to start bleeding every time you play basketball. Even when he would take like a week off, he'd come back, he'd start playing, boom, knees are bleeding again. I don't know why. I think there's real reasons why he wears sleeves on his legs for every game. And I think it's because if you were to see what his legs look like, you'd be horrified. But it was countless injuries with the Mavericks. And a lot of them he played through and some of them he didn't, that would affect his ankles and affect his knees over and over again. And he missed a lot of time at the start of the season. He only played a handful of games. Mavericks looked really great before he got traded to the Lakers. And that's because Nico Harrison looked at him and said, he's never going to be able to focus completely on winning the game. He's always going to be focused on bitching at the refs or some grudge that he has against some player on the other team. And unless he gets himself serious about, his health and losing weight and getting in better shape, his legs are just going to fall apart underneath him. And I'm not saying that's what happened either, but look, at the end of the series, like, Luka was not moving well. Luka was moving like someone who, his ankles were barking at him, his knees were hurting. So the nightmare scenario for Nico Harrison is that next year we get to preseason or whatever, and Luka shows up just chiseled and 25 pounds lighter, or maybe even not lighter, just, he's turned some fat into muscle or something. Luka's already a really, really strong guy. He's got really strong core, but like, he's got like my arms, it's not like he's back there like lifting weights and getting his shoulders and his arms strong. And I don't know how much work he does on his legs. Like, I don't even know if he does weightlifting. I think he just might play basketball for exercise and has built up great core strength as a result of it. But all this is to say, if I was a Mavericks fan and that is how the Mavericks went out with Luka and they lost to the Timberwolves and Luka kind of looked like that, I would be like, oh man, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what the future holds, because I would assume he's going to come back next year and he's going to look the same, except he's going to look a year older and his legs are going to be barking at him, but they're going to be barking a year louder. And he's never going to mature past the point of being able to completely focus on the game. And like, Nico Harrison will get into like Mamba mentality and all that stuff as like the bar that NBA players need to hit, which is ridiculous. But it was nice to see Luka doing all that stuff and it to have no effect on me whatsoever. Like, he's walking back on defense of like a fast break because he's tired or his legs hurt or he's screaming at a ref. Normally, that's the type of thing that would lead me to like scream at my TV. Be like, come on, Luka, what the shit? You're giving away possessions. And instead, I just watched it and I'm like, yep, that's Luka. And so, with a guy like Luka Doncic, you have to take the good with the bad. But I don't get the good anymore because I'm not a Lakers fan, which means I don't have to take the bad. And as a matter of fact, I can, maybe enjoy it a little bit when that bad, sneaks in and starts grinding the gears of Laker fans who have been, teasing me about this trade or teasing me about the fact that I've been watching and rooting for the LA Clippers this postseason, which, by the way, Clippers Nuggets tonight. Watch out for that one. Big game. I think if the Clippers win, it goes to a Game 7 in Denver. I expect to see the Clippers, Ty Lue, Kawhi Leonard, maybe even James Harden play some good basketball tonight to force that Game 7. I don't know what happens in Game 7. Playing in Denver is it's such a beast, man, and it just makes such a crapshoot. You just never know how much that's going to just suck the life out of the legs of all the players, but specifically the opposing, the traveling players, the away team. So we'll see. We'll see if the Clippers can get there. That's what I'm going to be paying attention to tonight during a Padres off day. And I will be back a little bit later with a guest if it doesn't fall through. Look for that. Darren and Leigha seem to be having a ball doing these morning podcasts that they send to me while I'm sleeping. So maybe we'll get another one of those. I believe Dylan from Letters to AJ, who Darren and I talked to a few weeks ago at Mason Ale Works, I met up with him after the game last night, and because he was in town. I think he's going to meet me at Mason Ale Works again tomorrow around noon if anyone wants to show up and say hi. If you're busy, I understand. But I think Dylan and I are going to have another fun conversation around baseball and the Padres, and maybe we'll get a little bit into San Diego FC. We'll see, but that's what you can look for tomorrow. A guest a little bit later. If you are already a paid subscriber of Section 1904, thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate you. I'm not going to read off the names that came in the last 24 hours. I'll wait and do that maybe on Monday or something. And this is your reminder. If you are a paid subscriber, your podcast feed that you should be listening to this on should be called Section 1904 Subscribers Only. The only way you can get that feed is if you are a paid subscriber, it gets emailed to you. If you are a paid subscriber and you are listening on the free feed and you don't know how to get the paid feed, go ahead and send me an email, jg@section1904.com. I will make sure that you get a fresh email with a fresh link that helps you set up that private feed that will eventually live behind a paywall either next week or maybe right after Darren gets back. We're going to start doing it where Monday shows will be free. They'll be like the weekend recap shows will be free. Everything else is going to be behind the paywall. So $5 a month, you're going to get the newsletter, the front row seat. You're going to get any blog post from me or Darren or anyone else who ends up getting added to the staff in the future. And you'll get every single episode that we put out for Section 1904. And if we, add additional podcasts, which is kind of in the long-term plans, you'll get all of those as well. $5 a month gets you in. There's some higher tiers that get you additional things if you want. And thank you so much for your support. I will talk to you guys a little bit later.